Yo, what is going on, you guys? It's your boy King Sanders here. We are back with another day of sports betting. This is going to be for Monday, February 27th slate of NBA action. Unfortunately, we do only have 4 games on the slate, but regardless, I did still find 3 plays that I do really like, 3 matchups that I really like. So hopefully we can go ahead and find some winners today. Have a 3-0 day, nice and easy on the short slates. A lot of times I do have a tendency to do better on the short slates. I mean, I'm not saying I will, but you never know. You never really know. I do have a tendency to perform a little bit better on these smaller slates. So hopefully we can go ahead and dive into it and find some winners. But before we did just want to go ahead and say that we are still currently on the road to 12,000 subscribers. So if you guys are new, make sure that you guys do like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you guys know whenever I post. Next, I did just want to go ahead and give a quick shout out here to all of our members here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do. And thank you guys so much for giving such a small channel such a big chance, as I always say. It truly does mean the absolute world to me. So much more than you guys will ever know. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into a quick recap as of yesterday. Kind of a weird day. You guys know how Sundays in the NBA are. I don't really need to express this to you guys. The weekends in the NBA are always weird, and it's really unpredictable on the weekends, and this was a similar situation. So we did end up having our one win of the day. We had Spencer Dinwiddie over 19.5 points versus Atlanta. Barely gets it done. He does finish right with 20, but I thought that this was a spot that Dinwiddie would be able to get things going, and he really did. He had a pretty good game. Then we ended up having our loss. We had Cam Reddish over 13.5 points. And the reason it lost, Damian Lillard had 71 points. Yeah, you guys heard me right. Damian Lillard had 71 points. So there was no way Cam Reddish was going. He shot 3 times. He made 2 of them, but he shot 3 times. Finishes right with 7 points. Like, there's just that when a guy drops 70, it's going to be very tough for anybody else to be able to hit the over. Thought this was going to be more of a role player's game, not a Damian Lillard type game. But it is what it is. Then we did end up having Rudy Gobert over 11.5 rebounds versus Golden State as well. And Rudy Gobert, unfortunately, didn't end up playing. He was kind of a late scratch on this one. So we ended up going 1-1 on our plays, though, losing just a little bit of juice. Hopefully, we can have a 3-0 day, or at the bare minimum a 2-1 day. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's picks. So for our first official play of the day, our Kings kill shot play of the day, we are taking James Harden under 21.5 points here versus Miami at -115 odds. Now, I know, go ahead and call me a hater if you want to, but I just think that this is a spot to be taking an under for Mr. James Harden. James Harden was on a nice little stretch where he did go over this line quite a bit, but I think he's starting to reshape back into what we kind of saw more towards the beginning of the year. He has gone under in 2 out of his last 3 games. And I think he does make it 3 out of his last 4, because he has also gone under in 3 straight versus Miami. So he has not been extremely successful versus this Miami team. And I think that we see another struggling night for Mr. James Harden. The Heat also do allow the third fewest points per game to opposing point guards. So I think that's another really good spot to target. They're very good defensively, especially to that point guard position. And even with Kyle Lowry being out of the rotation and them kind of flipping between guys like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, things of that nature, they've still been a very good defense to that point guard position. They still allow the third fewest points per game in the last 15 as well, or in the last 7, excuse me. So despite them trying to figure out who their true point guard is going to be, they've still been locking up that point guard position. And Miami also allows the second fewest points per game to opposing teams, so they are just a great defensive team. No matter who is going to be matched up on James Harden, they are going to make it very tough on him, and I think this is a really good spot to be targeting his under. And Miami is also the 3rd slowest pace. Slow down the pace of the game. It's going to more than likely be a Joel Embiid type game. I could see Joel Embiid dropping 30, 35, taking like 25 shots. Like, seriously, I think that this is going to be a game where Joel Embiid is going to be taking a good chunk of the shots. I do think James Harden's assist line over is a very good look as well, but I like his under in points for sure. That's a lock for me, so hopefully it does end up working out for us. So that is going to be our first official play of the day. James Harden under 21.5 points here versus Miami at -115 odds. Now, for our second official play of the day, we're going to a guy that's been red freaking hot here recently. We're taking Brandon Ingram over 24.5 points here versus Orlando at -120 odds. Now, he's been really, really good. He is coming off of a game where he ended up shooting 7 for 22 from the field, so definitely not a good shooting night. 31% from the field, but despite that game, he went over in 7 straight. So he's gone over in 7 out of his last 8 games, and I think he gets right back on track once again. He has a tremendous matchup here versus Orlando, a bunch of super young guys that are perfectly fine with getting up and down the floor, and he has also seen success versus this team. He has gone over in 2 straight here versus Orlando, and Orlando, they do allow the 2nd most points per game to opposing small forwards on the entire season, and 5th most in the last 15. So they really haven't made any sort of adjustments to that small forward position, and regardless, they still have not been able to defend it very well. So I think this is a really good spot here for Brandon Ingram. So I think this is a really good spot to target here for our second official play of the day. Brandon Ingram over 24.5 points here versus Orlando at -120 odds. Now for our third and final play of the day, we're going to a guy that I know, I'm sure I'll get plenty of comments about this guy, but we're going to go ahead and ride with it. LaMelo Ball over 42.5 PRAs here versus Detroit at -120 odds. Now, LaMelo, he's been kind of up and down. He is a very good definition of what we would call inconsistent, but I think this is a good spot to take his over versus a Detroit team. He has gone over in 3 out of his last 4 games, and while he hasn't seen tremendous success here versus Detroit, he hasn't hit this line very often. I still think that he does turn things around because Detroit, they do allow the 8th most points per game, the 13th most rebounds per game, and the 4th most assists per game to opposing point guards. And in those 3 games that he did end up hitting the over in his last 4, all of them were 50-plus PRAs. So I do think that's a pretty good spot here. In Detroit, they do allow the 2nd most points per game to opposing teams. So Detroit, they are a rebuilding team. We all know that. There's no shocker there. But they're not a very good defensive team. And I think a guy like LaMelo Ball can really exploit that if he really tries to. And it's just going to take one night that LaMelo ends up getting hot, and we could see this soaring over. So coming off of a game where he didn't necessarily perform the greatest from the scoring category, I think he does get right back into place. And I do think LaMelo Ball triple-double is actually a pretty good look. So I really do like this play here for a third and final play of the day. Hopefully we can go ahead and hit it. LaMelo Ball over 42.5 PRAs here versus Detroit at -120 odds. So that is going to do it for today's video. We unfortunately do not have a consensus play as of today. Since it was a 4-game slate, we didn't want to force anything and add any extra plays. But I will talk about another lean that I did end up having. I do like Jason Tatum's lines. Jason Tatum versus the New York Knicks. It seems like it's a very solid line, and the Knicks, all the stats are there to back it up. I just personally am going to be staying away. I like these 3 plays a little bit better, but I do like Jason Tatum a lot. I think he does have a pretty big night. So if you wanted to add another player to the card, I think that's a really good spot as well. But that is going to do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you guys do like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you guys know whenever I post. Like I said, we are still currently on the road to 12,000 subscribers. So if you guys are new, make sure that you guys are subbed. But that's going to do it for me. This is King Sanders signing out. Peace.